Hare camera's on you. I think it's fine. Jaya Radha Madhava Kanja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Gopi Janava Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Prajajanaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Shri Radhe. Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. It's okay, leave it there. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 67 and 68. So I'll just recite text 67 and then we can do the call and response for 68. So text 67 is, I'll recite the Sanskrit and the English quickly. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano nuvidiyate tad asya hadati pragyam vayonayam ivam basi. Translation. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. And a short purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. And then we come to text 68. We can do call and response. Tasmadyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashaha indriyanindriyat. My gosh, that's indriyanindriyaretabhyas tasya pragya pratishtita tasmadyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashaha indriyanindriyaretabhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. Go for it. Tasmadyasya mahabaho Nigritani sarvashaha. Indriyani indriyatebyas. Tasya pragya pratishtita. It's okay, we can go word by word. Tasmat, therefore. Yasya, whose. Mahabaho, O mighty armed one. Nigritani, so curbed down. Sarvashaha, all around. Indriyani, the senses. Indriya artebhya, from sense objects. Tasya, his. Pragya, intelligence. Pratishta, fixed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Therefore, O mighty armed one, whose senses are restrained from their objects. One whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One can curb the forces of sense gratification only by means of Krishna consciousness, or engaging all of the senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, as enemies are curbed by superior force. The senses can similarly be curbed, not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called a sadhaka, or a suitable candidate for liberation. So we'll just recite the Mangalacharan prayers and then begin. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Trunvyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivirshesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna, welcome to Bhagavad Gita class. And actually we just had a session the other day. Kadamba Kanana Maharaj was speaking to some Bhakti Riksha leaders, and he gave a whole talk on the importance of the Mangalacharan. This whole 1-2 hour talk on the importance of how important it is to say these prayers and how much we're how much blessings we're getting, how much we're actually asking for. And also he was stressing the importance of how much we living up to living up to this, or representing the Mangalacharya and the personalities that we're also invoking. So he's saying it's our duty to become qualified to represent these, which is heavy, you know. But also, one devotee also mentioned to me that when we say them sincerely, then they're actually obliged, these personalities are obliged to, if we sincerely ask for their presence, ask for their blessings, they're also obliged to help us, to say something through us, if we're in the right mood. So, anyway, I was struggling to control my senses, like this verse is talking about, keeping my mind on the Mangalacharya. But anyway, we'll try our best with your blessings, with your permission. We will speak something on these two verses. So I'll just repeat the translations of the two verses quickly for those that missed it. So 67 is, as a strong wind who sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose this is text 68. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. So another nice verse from chapter 2, these chapters full of nectar, of verses all about control, control of the senses, control of the mind. And I was just thinking on this, and it's actually a very high level, it's high level, you know, to control the senses in this way. And it's in this verse before, it's saying that even one sense that roams can carry away a man's intelligence. And so I was thinking, actually to control the senses, obviously we have Krishna consciousness, and we'll speak about that in a minute. And Prabhupada also speaks about that in the purple. But to control the senses without Krishna consciousness is very, very, very difficult. We have these different processes of meditation, and where you come to the point of samadhi and things, and it just means you're blank, nothing is coming into your mind. It's actually very, very high level, it's very, very advanced to actually experience that kind of control of the mind and the senses without Krishna consciousness. And we're so, just speaking for myself, I'm so far away from that kind of level of control. But luckily, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, that only by Krishna consciousness actually can we properly control the senses, or as Ravichinandan told us, yukta vairagya, or engage them in Krishna consciousness. So we're so fortunate that we have this process, because without Krishna consciousness, as we can see from our own minds, it's practically impossible to bring the mind under control, separate from Krishna consciousness at least. And so we have this amazing process being given to us of yukta vairagya, of engaging the senses. And we have this, it's also a very beautiful culture, the whole culture of Krishna consciousness that comes around this engagement. It's not just nothingness, it's not impersonal, there's no relationship, but relationships is also there, and the whole culture that comes around that is so beautiful. And naturally people become so happy in their service, in their culture, in this culture, that there's automatically renunciation, there's automatically sense control, because the service gives us that taste. And once we have a taste for service, then naturally the mind goes to the back and the service comes to the forefront. And so I was thinking, okay, that's one step, but what's the key behind unlocking this joy for service, which ultimately is this engagement in service, which ultimately helps us to control the senses when we're serving Krishna. And the key behind that, and I was kind of thinking, what is the key behind that? And I was thinking more, actually the key is humility. So this is one thing I wanted to focus on in this class, was how humility unlocks different aspects of our Krishna consciousness, and hopefully also by speaking about it, I can develop some desire to become humble as well. But yeah, these verses are talking about controlling the senses, and like we already said, it's very difficult to control our senses. So somehow we have to engage them in Krishna consciousness and get a taste for service. And so the key behind that is humility, which opens many, many doors for us. So I think I'll just go through different aspects of our Krishna consciousness and explain a little bit, maybe give a few examples from Shastra, and also ask you for a few examples as well. So be ready. We just had a talk. I was just now on a Zoom call with Sutapa Prabhu. He was giving a teacher training sangha how to deliver powerful content in Krishna consciousness. So I'm also feeling a little bit humbled now because most of my class isn't in line with what he said, but we'll try anyway to use a few things from what he said. So he said one thing is engagement, so I'll try and keep everyone engaged. So anyway, first thing, humility is a key to Shastra. So if we're not approaching Shastra with humility, then if we don't have humility and we're reading Shastra, then we'll read something, we'll take what we like, and we'll apply that. But if we don't like something, if we come across something we don't like, if something doesn't fit with us right, or it seems out of context, out of place, then we'll reject that and we'll maybe put the book down. For example, many people have this when they're reading Gita, and there's certain strong comments by Prabhupada and in the Gita itself about different subjects. Many people, they just come to that point and they reject the book completely and say, no, I can't. But if we have humility in our reading, then when we come to something like this, we realize, or we say to ourselves, okay, right now, because of my conditioning, because of the current world situation, whatever, this isn't making sense to me, or this kind of doesn't connect with me. But I'm not going to reject the whole book because of this one phrase. I'm going to carry on reading and be humble about it, because, okay, I accept that it's just my conditioning at the moment that can't grasp this, it can't access this, but let me carry on anyway. So that's how humility unlocks the Shastra for us, because we try to be more unbiased in our reading. Not emotionally, so often we emotionally read the Shastra. we kind of get to a point and we like it and we get really into it, or then we get to a point we don't like and it's like, oh, put it aside. But humility allows us to carry on and be more unbiased in our reading. So next point is preaching. How humility is a key to preaching. Without humility, if we try, most people they don't want to be told something. No one really wants to be, especially if it's challenging something about your way of life, or we've all probably had this experience. Someone tries to just tell you something up like this without any real, you can tell, and it just doesn't click. You can't take their advice. You can't do it because it's like you just get angry inside. But with humility, it unlocks. If we preach with humility, it unlocks people's heart, and we see so many examples in this. And I have a few here, but maybe you guys can share from the Shastra some examples of how humility really unlocks someone's heart, unlocks the preaching, and allows them to receive the knowledge. So I can give you one in class. We've just been going through one now in CC class. How that happens. Sarvam Bhattacharya, yeah. So Lord Chaitanya, just so many classes on this, how he sat and listened for 7 days and he was so humble, and Sarvabhauma was just overwhelmed by this humility, and finally that pride was defeated, and he could hear the wisdom from Lord Chaitanya, and he accepted it and changed. Can you think of any other examples?
There's one example of Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, yeah.
There's one before in America, he left ISKCON.
Maybe is there a mic? Who can? Sorry. Anyway, yeah, just I can repeat.
He grew a beard.
Hmm.
He's going to do his own project. He took some followers of him.
Yeah.
And Srila Prabhupada went to see him, and Prabhupada didn't chastise him. He said, "What did I do wrong that you left ISKCON?" That devotee had a change of heart after that.
Wow.
And he came back to ISKCON with his followers and he started the project again.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Prabhupada was very, very humble. Yeah, Prabhu, you have another.
I was hearing in class today about the pastime of Keshav Kashmiri, who was like at the time the world's most like learned scholar.
Yeah.
And Mahaprabhu, when he asked him to recite some poetry about the Ganga, and Mahaprabhu corrected him in a very like a very compassionate way.
Soft, yeah.
Yeah, and because he was, even though at the time Mahaprabhu was much younger than him, so he was able to see that with humility, and not see it as him as his ego getting challenged.
Yeah. Yeah, first he actually glorified, he said, wow, that was so amazing.
Yeah.
And then he said, but yeah, in such a soft way. Also, so yeah, I mean, we see so many with, you have one? Go. That's good.
It's just the other day we were talking about Krishna saying in the Bhagavad Gita at the end, or at the end of his instructions, this is just in my opinion.
Even Krishna himself.
That's even a humble attitude.
He's taking a humble position. Yeah. Practically everywhere we see this. Again, Lord Chaitanya, we have that pastime where he's invited to have the meal with the sannyasis, Prakashananda, Saraswati, and he sat out, we discussed this before, but he sat outside in the shoe room in the dirty area, and he's like saying, I'm such a low class sannyasi, and they're just like blown away. Their hearts are completely melted, and then they can hear him. So in the same way, this is how powerful humility can really unlock our preaching, if we approach that. And yeah, people connect with, when you're real as well, people connect with that. When you're, like I experience this often with me and Ian, so we do a few sanghas together, and I struggle to be very real, like I struggle to be maybe completely honest or give an honest opinion of myself. But Ian, he doesn't hold back. He says, sometimes he even makes it sound worse than it is, but he'll just tell people what it is. I struggle with this, like that, and people really connect with that. I can see how people reach out to him more, people connect with that because they feel, okay, he's being real, he's being genuine. Whereas maybe I'm giving some philosophy, but it's not quite people really connect with that authenticity, that humility. So, yeah. Okay, next, humility. How is humility the key to service? Sometimes we think in our services that without me, how could this carry on? If I wasn't here, how would the devotees eat? I'm so much better offering arati than others, and so pride can so easily creep into our service. Oh, Krishna must really like this. I'm doing this so nicely. But if we're humble, then we're feeling like this is an opportunity for me to render some service. Even someone like me can render some service, and then you'll automatically do it with so much care because you feel like this is such a rare opportunity, such a rare thing, that even I can do some service for Krishna, like that's amazing. So naturally you'll be very careful, you'll be very attentive. You don't feel worthy of the service, but it's a chance. And then you're always ready to do more service. It actually increases your service attitude because you're always ready for an opportunity to get purified. You're feeling, oh, okay, wow, here's a chance, here's an opportunity. And so actually when you see people with a lot of taste for service, then you can see that their humility is generally also kind of matching, because naturally if you have a taste for service, then naturally you're humble because you're seeing each service as an opportunity, as a gift, something you're not worthy of, but you're happy to do it anyway. Where if you're not humble, then you won't really have so much taste for service because it's just another job that needs to be done. Okay, so the next thing I have is how humility is the key to chanting. And obviously we recite every morning Trinadapi Suniche now. It's the qualification Lord Chaitanya gave us to chant constantly. Kirtaniya Sada Hari. But sometimes even in our chanting, even if we're having good rounds, we start to think, oh, it's my chanting, because of my purity, I'm chanting, the holy name is coming. But humility is acknowledging that the holy name is always independent, he can come and go, but it's how much am I being a pure medium for that, how much can I become a vessel for the holy name. And so humility allows us to pray to become more of a pure via medium for this holy name, for the benefit of others as well. And we see so many examples of that. Obviously, the Namacharya Haridas Thakur was the emblem of humility. There's so many pastimes that can express his humility, but he would chant like even when the prostitute came, he was so humble about it. He said, "No, sorry, I have to finish my rounds," and she was bewildered by that humility that he had, and she became his disciple. Oh, he completely transformed her by this humility. I mean, so many different examples, and we can also, pray the same. That even before we chant, before we do kirtan, that please let me become a medium, a vessel for the holy name, so that other people can experience this. And then that's real humility, because you're taking yourself out of the picture and just, please use me as an instrument for the benefit of all these other Vaishnavas here. And this actually leads to an important point of how do we take it when we hear about humility, or the difference between humility and low self-esteem. So Bhaktivedanta Manor makes this strong point about how sometimes, or what the difference is between spiritual humility and low self-esteem. So he says that spiritual humility is when we hear these examples of great humility, Haridas Thakur, we hear the bhajans and they're saying, I'm the most fallen, or we see how disqualified we are. Spiritual humility allows us to become excited. Like we were saying, it's an opportunity to, although I'm so small, but Krishna is so great, he can do anything. So this is spiritual humility. You feel excited when you hear these things. You feel excited when you see how fallen you are, because you know that Lord Chaitanya is the Saviour of the most fallen. And so spiritual humility allows us not just to feel depressed, but also to be very excited, to look at the mercy available, look how I can push on. Whereas low self-esteem, we hear these things and we just become depressed. And okay, there's no point even trying because I'm so far away. All these acharyas are saying, Bhaktivedanta is saying, I'm the most fallen, I cause disturbances to everyone my whole life. And then low self-esteem just makes you think, my God, he's saying that, and what about me? But so that's just an important point, I think. And also, because Lord Chaitanya gave us that instruction, Trinadapi Suniche, he's very pleased when he sees that humility, so he also blesses us with the holy name. Like Sanatana Goswami, when he came, he was being so humble. Lord Chaitanya said, your humility is giving me pain, please, please stop. So this is how pleased the Lord is when we take the humble approach. And some of us, just along that vein, some of us also, or some people can interpret this word of surrender also quite negatively. Like surrender gives you the idea of, okay, I lose sense of myself, I give up any independence, or I just get trampled on now. But actually surrender gives us access to real freedom, because we start to see the divine intervention, we start to see the protection. If you you start to see the protection, how Krishna's acting in your life. You see Krishna's plan more when we surrender. But that's if we take surrender in the right way. Because some people think like, oh, being humble, being surrendered, you just get walked over, you get trampled on, and that can happen if you do it in the wrong way. If you just, because we also, and I'll talk about that in a second. We see so many examples of how people, for example, Prabhupada was so strong and so seemingly not humble in some situations. But yeah, we kind of get that idea that if I'm humble, if I surrendered, then I'll just get walked over, I'll get trampled on. I don't have independence. And that, like I said, that can happen, but if we take it in the right way, we surrender in the right way, then we start to see Krishna's plan in all things, and we see the wonderful way that Krishna protects us. So sometimes, like I said, humble doesn't always mean like, yes, Prabhu. But we see so many examples. For example, Prabhupada acted so strongly, but not out of emotion. He didn't act out of an emotional response. It was from the heart. And that's how... Yes. Yeah, please.
And there was one temple in America, maybe Detroit or something. Prabhupada bargained directly with the owner. And he got the owner to go down, like the price. And by Prabhupada's influence, the owner agreed with the price. But then afterwards, the owner didn't feel good that he went so low.
Yeah.
But then Prabhupada allowed him to take the opulence out of the temple, whatever there was, like...
all the furnishings and things.
Everything, he let it go. So Prabhupada wasn't attached to that side of it. Main thing is that he got a temple for Krishna. So.
Yeah, we see so many examples. Prabhupada would sometimes be so strong. But people could accept it, because they felt that it was also not out of a place of ego. It wasn't an emotional response. This was just from the heart. And so you hear these wonderful stories how Prabhupada would like absolutely smash someone, and then they walk away just feeling like blissed out. They feel so happy, or they feel like, oh yeah, like you hear so many of these stories because Prabhupada, he didn't have that emotional. So many of us act emotionally, not from the heart, but it was pure. It was a pure response. So people felt just happy to be. And I'm sure we've all experienced this as well. If someone kind of attack you or something in a very emotional, egotistical way, you really feel like, oh my God, you really feel it. But if someone chastises you in a pure way, I don't know if any of you had your mentors or someone point something out or chastise you in some way, guru or something like this. And Rasaraj, you told me so many stories, so you just feel like so happy. Guru just chastising me again. So yeah, this is the power of, and this is also real humility, because they're seeing from the heart how can I help this person the best. So they're taking themselves out of the picture. And finally, we're coming up to time. So humility. How is humility the key to association? As our final point. And I'm sure you've all experienced it's very difficult to be around someone if they don't listen, or if they're just listening and trying to think of a response in their mind, or they can't have a proper conversation with them, and that's because of lack of humility. And so when we have humility in our association, generally that translates into we become good listeners. We become open, because you feel the need to hear this person. You feel, you have respect for them. And you feel that you want to hear from them, you want to learn from them. So naturally you become a good listener if you have a humble approach in your association. And generally that being able to listen also allows proper association to happen, not just surface level. So that was a few, for example, just one final example, obviously Arjuna and Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, once Arjuna said, okay, he became humble. He said, I don't know what to do. Now please instruct me. Then Krishna gave, and Arjuna was open to listen, and he was open to change as well. And so he had enough humility to allow that transformation to happen, that proper association. And Shastra is so relevant. It gives us all of these examples. And I was hoping we've run out of time, but I was hoping to go through a few more examples with you and get you to share also. But it really gives us examples of all of these keys to spiritual life. And how do we, I'll finish on this, we have 2 minutes left, I'll finish on this, on how to actually apply. So we've heard so many examples of humility, we've heard how it unlocks our spiritual life in different ways, but how do we actually apply that for us? Some people think that this person is he's just born humble. Some people have this quality, some people are just born proud. There's not much you can do about it, but actually there is, it can be developed. And I was hearing a class, His Holiness Shivram Swami was talking about how humility can be, and a few other people as well, how humility can be developed and how we can take opportunities to develop humility. For example, if we're in a situation where, I don't know, for example, you've done something, or someone else did something, and then you get the blame for it. Sometimes it's right to speak up, but sometimes also it's okay, I'll just, let me be quiet. And this is an opportunity to become humble. So sometimes we have to see situations like that, even if we feel like we're being unfairly judged or something. Sometimes it's actually very healthy for us just to keep quiet and say, okay, Krishna is giving me a good opportunity here to develop some humility. Even if you feel like shouting out, no, that wasn't me. But actually it's... So we take those opportunities to develop humility. And also we maintain our determination. We have so many impressions in our minds that we constantly material impressions, so many impressions from past lives. So we have to override these impressions. We have to have patience in our spiritual practice, patience in our determination to develop these qualities. And we try to apply what we see in the Shastras. So just to conclude, we spoke about humility and how that is the key to, the verses were speaking about sense control. And Prabhupada in the Purport talks about this, how only Krishna consciousness can help us develop sense control. And then the lesson I drew from that was that behind that we have to develop humility to unlock these different aspects of Krishna consciousness. So I don't know if any of that was useful, but if there's any questions or comments or discussion, chastisements we can have now. Srinivasa Prabhu.
You mentioned in your class about someone not humble, he cannot understand the Shastras, right?
Yeah.
So that's like, it says a Shudra cannot read the Shastras properly because he's... So that means if someone's on the bodily platform, understanding Shastra is difficult for them.
Yeah.
So humility means to understand you're not the body, you're part and parcel of Krishna. That's part of humility, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Only then you can enter the Shastra, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Srinivas summed it up. Humility means...
I mean, that's like qualities of a Brahmana, isn't it? You have to cultivate the qualities of a Brahmana. Only then you can enter the Shastra, right?
Yeah. Because otherwise we just come to a point we struggle so much with different concepts, how they relate to our bodies, or here's like different comments you might even assume this is sexist, this is racist, but like you said, if we're on the bodily platform, then we'll just stop there and we can't go further. But if we're humble, then we can carry on, go deep.
Because Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, in one of his lectures, he was talking about how Krishna cut the pride of Indra by lifting Govardhan hill. So he made a comment, what is our pride? Indra's pride was that he wasn't being worshipped Krishna cut that pride by lifting Govardhan hill and teaching him a lesson how to be humble. So our pride is we are thinking we are the body.
Mm. So Krishna's cutting that in different ways. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. Very nice. I had a question about humility and association.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that one person in a conversation is thinking of things to say rather than hearing.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on how this is related to humility?
Just how often in a conversation, I'm sure you find this also for yourself, I mean at least I find this for myself, that when someone's speaking to you, they're making a point or something and you're just thinking in your mind. You know, actually, you hear one thing and then you take hold of that and you think, okay, let me think of something clever to say in return so that I can establish myself, I can establish my point more strongly. You know, like, whereas humility allows us to just hear them, like we're saying, even with Shastra, just hearing with this unbiased, just hearing because we respect them, hearing because we want to learn, and then we just allow it to come, whatever they're saying, and then that's humility because you're not trying to establish yourself, you're not trying to establish your point, you're open, like Arjuna, he was open to hearing, to changing his ways, so we're also hearing because we want to improve ourselves and to change our ways. We're not just hearing to respond. So proper hearing is a sign of humility. No? Okay. Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.